66 million years ago, Earth witnessed one of the most devastating events in its history. A gigantic asteroid, the size of Mount Everest, crossed the atmosphere and collided with the planet, ending the age of the dinosaurs. The impact created the famous Chicxulub crater in present-day Mexico and caused a global catastrophe. Fires, tsunamis, ash storms, and darkness that enveloped the planet for months. 3/4 of all species were wiped out in a matter of days. For decades, scientists believed that this single event was responsible for the mass extinction. However, new discoveries are challenging this version. Recent research has revealed something surprising: a second impact, possibly occurring at the same time, may have contributed to the collapse of life on Earth. In 2022, while analyzing seismic data from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, British researchers identified a mysterious structure hidden under almost 1,000 meters of depth. The formation had a perfect circular shape and impressive dimensions, 9 kilometers in diameter. It was named the Nader crater. Before we continue, please check your subscription to our channel, and if you can, leave us a like. We would be very grateful. Initial analyses indicated that this structure was not the result of volcanic activity or erosion, but rather the result of a colossal collision. Even more surprising, its age coincided with that of the Chicxulub impact about 66 million years ago. This raised an intriguing hypothesis. What if Earth had been hit not by one, but by 2 asteroids in sequence? This discovery could completely change the way we understand the end of the dinosaurs, transforming what already seemed like an apocalypse into a double cosmic blow. The impact of the Nader asteroid, although much smaller than that of Chicxulub, was anything but insignificant. Scientists estimate that the celestial body was about 500 meters wide, larger than 5 football fields, placed side by side, and traveled at a speed of over 72,000 kilometers per hour. This combination of size and speed made it a veritable cosmic bomb, releasing energy equivalent to more than 5,000 megatons of TNT, surpassing in destructive power the entire nuclear arsenal of Earth today. When the asteroid hit the ocean, the impact instantly vaporized millions of tons of water and launched a gigantic fireball into the sky. The surrounding temperature rose to unimaginable levels, burning everything within hundreds of kilometers of the African coast. The force of the explosion generated hypersonic winds, faster than any hurricane ever recorded, capable of uprooting entire forests and dragging blocks of rock for kilometers. But the worst was yet to come. The shockwave caused a colossal tsunami, with waves 3 times higher than the Eiffel Tower, which swept across vast areas of the African coastline and crossed the Atlantic, reaching the Americas. Even distant regions felt the effects. Seismic tremors of magnitude 7 shook the ground, and cracks opened up on the seabed. Although the ocean absorbed part of the impact, it also amplified its destruction. The steam and gases released rich in carbon and sulfur rose into the atmosphere, temporarily altering the global climate. The Earth had been struck by a disaster of continental scale. The already wounded planet now faced an even bleaker scenario. And no one knew that the second impact, even greater and more devastating, was about to happen. While the Nader crater was still boiling beneath the Atlantic, the planet barely had time to recover. In a matter of days, perhaps hours, a new, much larger celestial body crossed space toward Earth. It was the Chicxulub asteroid, more than 10 kilometers in diameter. Its impact on the Yucatan Peninsula, in present-day Mexico, would mark the end of the dinosaur era. The collision released energy equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs. In an instant, the ground melted, the air caught fire, and the atmosphere filled with dust and incandescent rocks. The heat was so intense that it set forests on fire thousands of kilometers away. Seismic waves traveled across the planet, while fragments from the impact were thrown into Earth's orbit and then fell like rain of fire. If the Nader impact had caused regional destruction, the Chicxulub impact brought about global collapse. Dust and gases rose into the stratosphere and blocked sunlight for months, perhaps years. Temperatures plummeted, plants stopped photosynthesizing, and entire food chains collapsed. In the air, in the oceans, and on land, death spread at an unprecedented rate. But there is an even more frightening hypothesis. If the two impacts Nader and Chicxulub occurred at almost the same time, their effects may have added up, multiplying the chaos. The ash thrown up by Nader would have prepared the atmosphere for the final blow from Chicxulub, intensifying global cooling and accelerating mass extinction. For the dinosaurs, there was no escape. The planet they once ruled had become a death trap, an apocalyptic scenario where fire, darkness, and cold decided the fate of Earth. When the dust finally began to settle, the world was no longer the same. Entire forests had disappeared, oceans boiled in some places and froze in others, and more than 75% of all species on Earth were dead. It was the beginning of a new era and the definitive end of the dinosaurs. But the mystery surrounding the second asteroid would remain for millions of years, until modern scientists discovered the Nader crater and began to piece together the puzzle. The big question now is not only how the dinosaurs died, but how bad that moment was. The Chicxulub impact alone would have been enough to cause extinction. However, if Nader actually hit Earth shortly before or at the same time, it may have been the blow that set the planet up for total collapse. Recent studies indicate that the African impact released enormous amounts of carbon and sulfur elements capable of altering the global climate for years. Unlike Chicxulub, which released tons of dust that fell relatively quickly, Nader produced smaller particles that remained in the atmosphere longer. This may have prolonged the cooling of the Earth, poisoned oceans, and weakened already threatened ecosystems. In other words, the planet was hit twice in too short a time to recover. A double cosmic blow that changed the course of life forever. Today, looking up at the sky, scientists know that the same kind of threat still exists. Asteroids continue to cross space, silent, invisible to the naked eye. And although humanity feels safe, the story of the Nader crater serves as a reminder. The universe is vast, unpredictable, and sometimes merciless. Discover more about the mysteries of the universe and stay up to date with discoveries that could change our history.